Well, here we are on this Tuesday night, the 10th of October, as we still have that pesky upper low in eastern Canada, and that is actually going to impact the weather pattern for the rest of the week and impact the system that's now coming into the Pacific Northwest. It's going to make a difference in what goes on here in the eastern part of the United States. We've got Hurricane Lidia in the Pacific. We've got moisture coming into the Gulf of Mexico. We'll cover it all in incredible detail tonight on the Joe and
Incredible.
Joe. Yes, incredible. On the Joe and Joe Weather Show, which is, of course, brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York, and Southwest Suffolk County on Long Island. Mulch, topsoil, and sand. And this winter, if the snow lovers have their way, they'll be buying lots of salt. 631-756-1125 for the best prices in town. The website is
OmniTrueValue.com.
Tempest by Weatherflow. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system. Join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link is pinned to the top of the chat board. It's also on the descriptor to this video. Use the referral link and the coupon code I want a weather station. Because if you do, and that, by the way, goes for anything pretty much that's on the Tempest website. So if you use that coupon code, you get...
You're going to get a big 10% off.
Okay, right off the bat, Joe, we should tell them. I already put it on the chat board, so I'm going to let everybody know. I don't want messages telling me otherwise. Tomorrow, regular time, 7:35 p.m. And thank you very much for everybody being here for the late start tonight at 8 o'clock. Thursday, 7 o'clock start to the show. Okay, 7 o'clock for Thursday. And welcome to everybody tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show. Joe Rayo is on the right in some fabulous blue, I see. And I'm Joe Cioffi. We are here Sundays through Thursdays at 7:35 p.m. and an occasional Friday and Saturday when there's a big storm around. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Hit the notifications. Make sure your notifications are turned on so you don't miss us. And feel free to participate in the conversation by jumping on the chat board. And also, welcome to those of you who are listening on YouTube Music, as our podcast airs now on YouTube Music, Mr. Rayo. It's very exciting.
Yes, it is exciting.
Yeah, Google Podcast is going away early in 2024, and it's being incorporated inside YouTube Music. So that's what that's about. So anyway.
Oh, okay.
So, Joe, this upper low that's in eastern Canada really holds the key to whatever's going to happen over the weekend. And the longer it takes to move out, the more suppressed the system that's coming out of the plains will be. And I think that was pretty evident today on a lot of the guidance. And what I mean by suppressed is that the track is going to be a little further south. It also might not be quite as intense. Now, I was thinking all along that this was going to be a low-end nor'easter. Then the European threw that curveball yesterday. But I think that's where we're going here with this, sort of a low-end nor'easter, which I would imagine should be pretty manageable. I would think.
Yeah, I'm interested in seeing just how long it's going to take for the steady precipitation to arrive. As I've been alluding to over the last couple of days, it might be that the first, the steadiest rain may hold off until perhaps later Saturday or Saturday night with this impending system. Again, because as you just pointed out, Joe, this upper low that is currently providing us, I got to tell you, it was another disappointing day here, at least where I was. We had broken to overcast conditions. We even had
you had self-destructive sunshine, which I'm not allowed to say.
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
Right, yeah. Okay.
Another day now. I'm hoping tomorrow we'll have more in the way of sun, or maybe if not tomorrow, Thursday. I'm getting tired of waiting. But the thing is that this system is so widespread, so huge, that it's going to take the better part of the rest of this week for it to finally release its hold on us and allow for the next system from the middle part of the country to come in and start affecting us. And the longer that it's in line or in charge of our weather, the longer it's going to take for the unsettled weather of this weekend to finally arrive.
Yeah, the large circulation of the upper low is an issue, and the other thing is even when it gets out of the way, and I was noticing this too today. Uh, it starts to move out of eastern Canada and it heads for the Canadian Maritimes. It doesn't keep going. It actually backs an arm back westward into New England, which is going to force this next low as it moves across, let's say, the northern Ohio Valley, the lower lakes, northern Ohio Valley, is going to force that low to redevelop further south. And it's got a bit of a flatter look. And the other thing is that the system that's coming in is also, in its own right, sprawling. And there's a lot of lagging energy that'll be around, which led the models today to be somewhat complicated for the first part of next week because there's the first thing will go out rather than have one system goes out, one system in play. It could very well wind up being two because you're splitting the energy in half. One low goes out. The new one can't really get out of the way so much, so the next one's got to go down and around. It's an odd pattern I guess it's not, when I say an odd pattern for October, I think it's because we've gotten so used to over the past number of years. And our good friend Dave Tolleris pointed this out on a post today that I read of his, that for the first time in a long time, we're having a typical October. And it seems so foreign to us because we've, particularly in the middle Atlantic states and points south, it seems so foreign to us because we've had, so many years where summer sort of extended through September and even into the first part of October. Now we're seeing something that, was the way October was when we were younger, which, was pretty much any yesterday and beyond. But we're seeing something that we just haven't seen in a long time, but this is how it used to be much of the time back in the day, to use an overused cliched phrase.
I was walking my dog this afternoon, and when I get to the end of my driveway, I turned around and took a look at my front lawn, and I have a big, big front lawn. And I'm saying to myself, wait a minute, hold on for a second. I said, today is the 10th day of October. And in other years, and I've been up here now for 21 years, in other years, at this particular time frame, I would see a fairly good part of my lawn covered with colorful leaves. Joe, I tell you true, 98% of my lawn is still green. Not much in the way of any leaves, and the leaves that are on the tree still aren't very colorful at all. It's a very odd-looking situation.
Yeah.
I don't recall it ever looking this way this late in the fall season.
And it'll all catch up soon enough. I mean, those down here, we've got some color already. I got leaves all over the place. Everything's already shut down as far as growing is concerned. So I don't know. It's a little. It is. Look, I guess it should fall in line with the fact that we've seen so many quote unquote weather rules broken in the past year or so, where things are happening when they're not supposed to happen, or they're happening in a way totally different than what you would expect. I suppose why should this be any different now that we're seeing a typical October, and we can't accept the fact that it's really a typical October.
And the other thing is that we're talking about the positioning of the troughs, the positioning of the two low pressure systems, the one approaching from the west, the one that slowly will, by the end of this week, be departing through Atlantic Canada. But let's not also rule out there's a pretty large high pressure system that is going to be centered Saturday morning over Lake Winnipeg, and it is trying to ridge east and south down through James Bay. And there's a second center that is pretty well developed off of the Carolina coastline, a few hundred miles off the Carolina coastline. So you've got this high pressure ridge in between the two disturbances that in itself is trying to flex its muscles. It's almost like somebody who's in between two people, crowding them in on a couch. And the high is like trying its best to say, wait a minute, make room for me. And that's what I'm talking about for the start of the weekend. People right now are hearing the forecast for Saturday, rain. And basically, that's what it is. For in Albany and in New York City, you look at the forecast for Saturday, rain. That's all they say, rain. And as it turns out, you wake up on Saturday, it may not be raining.
It
If
might
you
it
wake up
might take longer to get in. I mean, there's no.
I mean, it will eventually rain. We will eventually get precipitation. But what I'm saying is that everything is not going to move as quickly as you might otherwise think. And again, that high, it's a smaller player, but it's going to do its level best to try not to make this the sixth consecutive lousy weekend, which will then ultimately end up being. Sorry about that,
Oh, I know,
Southlandine.
and people are cranky as it is. Oh my
Yeah.
God, I had to deal with another couple of people on Ragebook today. So, the chairman Scott Briller hitting super chat. Thank you for hitting the tip jar, Scott. And he has one more tidbit about Peter Sinks, Utah, which is we talked about it yesterday. Despite having the second lowest temperature ever in the lower 48, last year they set an all-time high of 107.
Yeah.
So talk about a range.
Yeah.
Talk about a range. All right, on to the satellite loop because if we when we left you yesterday, there was a big gigantic upper low sitting in eastern Canada. There was a subtropical jet running from the Pacific across Texas and then east across the Gulf states and exiting east of Florida and running out into the Atlantic. And we had a storm that was sitting off the coast of the Pacific Northwest, and here we are today. And what do we got? Well, we've got this big upper low sitting in eastern Canada that's still rotating away. We have a subtropical jet that runs, that's got Hurricane Lidia inside of it, and the moisture is streaming northward into Texas and across the lower Gulf states and out through Florida and then offshore. So there that goes. And we still have a storm sitting offshore the Pacific Northwest. You can see the swirl there on the loop, and energy has now come in to the northwestern part of the country, and that is the system that is going to be driving eastward. Somehow it's all going to get squeezed in between all of this. It's a I guess it's a marvelous view of moving puzzle pieces that are changing. I always like to use the analogy of gears, the babe a toddler toy with the gears. It's like a gear puzzle, and he puts the things in there, and there's when he gets all the pieces in, he turns the handle in the middle of the middle gear, and then all the wheels turn around.
Wasn't there a game called Mousetrap?
Yeah, something. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there was Mousetrap. I
And then
had that.
later on, they was it Remco or Ideal Toys? They came up with Mousetrap, and then they came up with the Crazy Clock game.
Right. But
All
with
Rube Gold.
yeah, but with the gear concept is the fact that this is it's kind of how weather works. The only difference is that the gears are constantly changing in terms of the scope and magnitude and strength, and you got to figure that part of the equation out in order to nail your forecast. In the meantime, if you're in between all of this, we actually had a really nice day here in North Georgia. First time in 3 days we didn't go down to the freezing mark, Joe. It was 42 this morning, and we got to the mid 70s this afternoon. So it was a really nice day. I finished working on my deck, which was good. Uh, Meanwhile, you've got all of this happening. The upper low's not going anywhere. The subtropical jet's not going anywhere. And then we watch the system that's coming out of the plains. On the radar tonight, as we give that a look, there is rain in westernmost New York and on the Canada side, also in northern Ohio, raining in Cleveland right now, raining in Detroit, much of southern Michigan. That is rotating around the base of that upper low. And of course, further east along the coast, you really don't have too much. There's some showers along coastal Maine. There was some couple of heavy downpours in southeast New England this morning. I was a little surprised to see that. I was wondering where that came from. But the radars are dry in the east until you get down to the Florida Panhandle. Now we start to see these are echoes. None of this is really reaching the ground. That's all aloft there. But we do have rain reaching the ground in the coastal bend of Texas and in South Texas, and also in southernmost Louisiana, but it's mostly on the light side. A few heavier downpours in eastern New Mexico and West Texas scattered around. And here's the mess up in the northwest, where you've got some heavy rain in western Washington and Oregon, and also seeing rain. I think this is mostly rain in Montana and in Idaho, down into northern Utah as that energy moves in, and some of the higher peaks out here probably going to see some snow before this is all said and done. In fact, let me see what's going on. Just want to take a look and see what kind of watches and warnings. I don't think they're going to be many, but let's if any. It's mostly frost. Frost advisories from southeast Minnesota in a strip that runs to Chicago, across central Indiana into Ohio, and also in eastern West Virginia, and in a couple of counties in southern Pennsylvania. And out west, we do have some winter weather advisories and some winter storm watches up in western Wyoming. Well, let's take a look at what that is. The winter storm watch, it's in pieces, and they are going for, we'll see what they're saying here, 8 to 12 inches, Joe, above 7,000 feet. So you got to go up there. Locally, higher amounts to 15 inches possible across the highest terrain. So that's in Casper Mountain, which is where I just pulled this up. And
Alan Casper Mountain?
Yes, but this is Casper with the C. In the Bighorn Mountains, in West Bighorn Mountains and southeast, winter storm watch there for 10 to 20 inches above 10,000 feet. I wonder how many. That's pretty high. That's double Denver. That's 2 Mile High Stadium. So you got to go up there, and wind gusts up to 45 miles an hour, and also winter storm warnings for 6 to 12 above 8,000 feet, and this is for the Absaroka Mountains and the Wind River Mountains east. Okay, so they got it. And we have winter storm watches up for the city of the North Laramie Range, including the city of Garrett, 12 inches or more there. And the snow lovers are already just foaming at the mouth over this. And in the Sierra Madre Range, including the cities of Centennial and Albany, Joe, we have winter storm watches for 12 or more inches there. And that's the North Laramie Range, the Sierra Madre Range, and the Snowy Range counties. I didn't realize that they had something called the Snowy Range counties.
Well, you're mentioning snow. Johnny Quest, thank you for hitting Super Chat. And he points out, Joe, that on this day in 1979, he had something like 12 to 18 inches of snow.
Wow, I'm trying to remember that was around Columbus Day. I think New York City had a trace on that day.
It is the earliest snowfall not snowfall, but the earliest in New York City has ever seen snow was on this day in 1979.
I remember I was walking in, I lived in Country Club, so you know where that was.
Yep.
Right near you, and I was walking on Lohengrin Place, and I always have this memory of that because it was in the middle part of the mid to late afternoon. It was on the darkish side outside because of the clouds and the low sun angle, and the one, not just the snow flurries the snow that fell, but I remember the leaves, Joe, because the leaves had already changed. Most of the leaves had already changed color, and there was a lot of leaves down. So, that was on October. That was before they went to a Monday holiday, I think. So, it was around Columbus Day. I do remember that. Anyway, that was that.
They even had snow, I think. The Baltimore Orioles were in the World Series that year. Yes, they actually had started the World Series this early, folks, back before we had multiple tiers of playoffs. And I think they had wet snow and rain in the Baltimore area for that World Series game.
Everybody's reminiscing. By the way, I did see someone new on the chat board, and I missed. He had a question about rainy weekends, and I just wanted to address it. Now I'm trying to find it. It was here
We have somebody
early.
on the chat board, Virginia underscore Ginger, and a tiny 3. Is that supposed to stand for cube? Virginia underscore Ginger Cube. It looks to me.
Well, welcome, Ginger, because I think Ginger is new to the chat board. Scott Leary. So Scott Leary said we need to answer why it's been raining every Saturday for the last month. Can't get a nice weekend in Philadelphia. And we were talking about this yesterday. If much of the time, statistically, it rains about 35% of the time. So there's 7 days in a week. 2 out of the 7 days is, roughly, what did we come up with? 18%? Or something like that.
Oh, you mean like out of 2 out of 5?
2 out of 7.
Well, two out of 7. Well, 28. That's 28.5%.
28.5% of the week are the 2 weekend days. So if it rains 35% of the time, I mean, you roll the dice in the world of chaos, and you're going to get stretches like this where it's going to rain on consecutive weekend days. We just happen to be in one of those stretches. Who knows how long it lasts? And then we'll go into stretches. Get these stretches sometimes where we had summers not too many summers ago where it was something like 12 out of the 13 summer weekends were sunny with not a drop of rain. So it happens. Storm Prediction Center. No organized severe thunderstorms tonight, so I'm sure most people that are affected by severe weather are happy about that. Tomorrow we do have a marginal to slight risk in Florida, from the Panhandle down to Central Florida, and that's with this low that's in the Gulf of Mexico right now. That is not going to become a tropical storm, but it is going to become it is a low pressure area that is going to strengthen a bit as it moves eastward across the Gulf and over the state of Florida. And they're going to see heavy rains out of that. Marginal risk in eastern Nebraska, half of Iowa and northern Missouri. And then we go to day 3. Day 3, it's southeast Nebraska, a small portion of southwest Iowa, northwest Missouri, and northeast Kansas in the slight risk, and a marginal risk covering much of the Florida peninsula. But the rest of the country is pretty quiet from the standpoint of thunderstorms. And WPC, Joe, 1.5. Now this is 7-day rainfalls through next Tuesday night, so it's a little complicated because there are risks that we could see some lingering rain around Monday and Tuesday, depending on how this plays out, maybe even into Wednesday. So you're talking about stretching out what could be an 1.5 to 1.75 to 2 inches for southeastern New England westward into the Hudson Valley, much of New Jersey, and eastern Pennsylvania. Big rains in central and northern Florida of several to many inches, and that's that subtropical jet. And actually, some of that heavy rain makes it, halfway up through Georgia and into South Carolina. Also, big rains across from Michigan westward through southern Minnesota and Iowa, and then back into southern South Dakota, northern Nebraska of several inches or more. And we are looking at very heavy rains over the next 7 days of several to many inches from northwestern California all the way up through coastal Oregon and Washington. Pretty busy rainfall map for October, which in a lot of places is the driest month of the season of the year.
And it's going to, once again, I'm almost at a loss for words. And once again, we're going to see for the 6th consecutive weekend here in the tri-state area. You would figure by this time that we'd get a break, that we would see some of that wet weather shift over into maybe a Tuesday or a Wednesday and open it up for nicer weather for the weekend. But same old story, Joe, and it looks like it's going to continue. I'm even afraid to go, beyond this weekend to see what's going to happen the following weekend on the long range maps.
Well, we're going to look at the maps momentarily. I've got the loop up. Let me put a few extra frames on here. and we can take a look at, and we'll add the latitude and longitude, and we'll speed it up a little. um, there's Hurricane Lidia. Part of the circulation's already over land, but you see all that Pacific moisture. I mean, it's just all kind of shooting up to the northeast through Mexico and into Texas. And in the Gulf of Mexico, definitely not a tropical system here. It's got little the convection that's sort of at the base of that cloud bank there, but that's there's nothing tropical there, and the Hurricane Center on their latest outlook indicated now that there's a 0 chance of this becoming a tropical system before it merges with the frontal system, the frontal zone that lies across the Gulf states. They still have this red X out in the tropical Atlantic, 80% probability in the next 48 hours and 80% in the next 7 days, continues to show signs of organization, blah, 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 moving west-northwest. We're at the time of year where the push out here, the push westward is very weak. So I kind of doubt that this is going to make it. Not only would it probably not make it all the way across, but with the flow of the Atlantic from west to east so far to the south, I would imagine that this is just going to get recurve and get absorbed, even if it does briefly develop into a tropical storm. What's the S name? Do you remember?
I don't have that list in front of me, but
Right.
if you give me about 30 seconds, I'll probably have the name for you.
Okay.
I know we're down to like only 4 left on the list.
S, T, V, and W.
Yeah.
All right. In the meantime, I'm loading the next map up. So while you search for the names, here's the upper air, and I went back 3 days so we could see the evolution of the.
Sean.
What is it? Sean?
Sean.
Sean. Okay. Oh, and what's V and W?
Sean, Tammy, Vince, and Whitney.
Oh, T. I forgot. Right. Tammy, Vince, and Whitney. Okay, very good. Here we go. The upper low forms as it did over the weekend, spins back westward over south of James Bay, and has just been sitting there. I mean, look at this. Got there on Monday, and now here we are Tuesday night. It's still there. Here we are Wednesday morning, and it's still there. Now, of course, you see the energy that's coming into the northwest, and now we're into early Thursday morning. The upper low is a little weaker, but it hardly moved, starting to inch eastward. The next trough diving south and cutting off in Nebraska and Iowa. That's why we have the severe weather risk at the Storm Prediction Center. You see the blocking high that's up in western Canada between Lake Winnipeg and Great Slave Lake. We've got a very strong closed off upper high, so everything is moving underneath it. And again, that upper low, Joe, gets to Nova Scotia, between Nova Scotia and Newfoundland, and then it stops. So the next system, which is really vigorous on Friday afternoon in Iowa, earlier this week we saw models carrying a whole cutoff to the east. Now kind of opens it up, but then the trough lags. It's got this lagging energy back into the plains, and then another arm comes down and around and cuts off in the Central Appalachians, and then moves up the East Coast for the middle part. Later Tuesday night into Wednesday. I mean, this is just a really crazy setup because of the blocky nature of the pattern. Now, eventually that trough does lift out at the end of later next week, but guess what? Another trough swings down into eastern Canada. Here, there's your nice weekend, Joe, the 21st and 22nd. So that looks like that might be a decent weekend if we get the next trough drops down into easternmost Canada and New England, and then that lifts out, and then you can guess what happens. Here comes another big trough setting up from northern Canada all the way down through the southeast. This is cold, by the way. If this were to happen like this would be some fairly cold air that will come down, because if the jet is set up this way, and there's no guarantee that it would be, but the flow is coming straight from the Arctic region through western Canada and down into the Great Lakes and across the Tennessee Valley and through the Mid-Atlantic states. So that's a very cold This is a January upper air for you winter weather lovers. This would be perfect as far as cold weather is concerned. But it's October, so it will be somewhat limited, and no sign in from what I've seen. The NAO, Joe, the North Atlantic Oscillation Index, which is dropping to a negative two standard deviations from the mean, which is impressive, does go back up to the neutral line, and then it turns, and then it starts to fall again as we get toward the latter part of the month. So the NAO wants to stay negative. Seems like the NAO wants to be negative, and they want to stay negative for a while. It was negative for most of the month of July and August, went briefly positive in early September, and then went negative on September 15th, and it's culminating with that -2 this weekend, and then goes up, and then starts to go down again.
Up and down, like a roller coaster.
Yeah. Now, does that negative trend continue beyond October and it goes through November and into December? Because if it does, then maybe as we move through November, things might get a little more interesting from a standpoint of some early winter weather around parts of the eastern United States.
Well, I remember in 1987, I remember twice, in 1968 and 1987 in November, that there was it was Veterans Day, a significant winter storm. I was living on Long Island in 1987, and we had like an inch or two of slush. So it's possible, if everything falls into place, it's possible that we could get that kind of weather that early. And of course, need I also not forget up here in Putnam Valley, October 29, 2011, where I had 14 inches of snow. So
yes. Scott Briller here just hit Super Chat again. Thank you, Scott. And just a heads up, because tomorrow, we did this last night, but tomorrow we will have Little House on the Briller Jeopardy will be Little House on the Prairie Part 2. Okay? Mark that down for you Little House on the Prairie fans. So that's tomorrow.
And he said the connection between Little House on the Prairie and the Joe and Joe show. I don't know what the connection is, so we'll find out, I guess, tomorrow night.
There's a connection? Well,
he says on Super Chat, he said,
they had blizzards on that show, didn't they?
Oh, yeah. In fact, one of the most famous episodes was the blizzard that hit on Christmas Eve. Miss Beadle, the school marm, sent all the kids home early because she figured, it's a holiday, you can all go home, and he sent them right out into a
raging blizzard.
Raging blizzard.
Right. Yes, because in other words, they had early dismissal.
Yes.
So here's here's the upper low again, just to show you on a close up. Again, it's taking longer and longer for this to get out of the way, and it never really completely gets out of the way. Saturday morning, Joe, the flow is still west-northwest in the upper atmosphere. The last contour of the upper low is running from, I don't know, let's say north of Syracuse, maybe right from the northern part of Lake Ontario, southeast to just south of Boston to Cape Cod. And then the first contour on the base of that next upper low is riding up across central Ohio, and then makes the turn in southwestern New York. But you still have basically a northwest flow Saturday morning, and then by Saturday afternoon, the ridge at 500, the ridge line moves offshore. That's usually a good place to look to see where the wall of rain might be. So we'll draw the ridge line here. This would be Saturday at 2 o'clock. It would be raining to the west of that line and not raining to the east. But again, not as vigorous an upper low lead system that comes out, but there's your lagging energy behind it, and that makes another cutoff for early next week. So it really changes what we're going to be seeing with this next system. And in fact, if we go on the look of the radar, I'm going to use the full U.S. view so everybody can get a look at what's going on in the west. Because, yeah, you can see the snow in Wyoming. There's your low by Thursday morning in central Nebraska. with snow back in Wyoming and rain in the Dakotas. The Gulf low, and you see the Gulf low there moving quickly northeastward with that heavy rain across northern Florida and into the southeast. Actually, the new run of the GFS pushes the rain up almost into North Carolina before the low goes out to the east. You know, you talked about that ridge that's offshore, Joe. That low coming out and being a bit on the vigorous side probably dents that ridge to some degree as well, which helps to change the whole profile of what's happening. So this surface low near Chicago the low is near Chicago at 2 a.m. Saturday. The GFS has little strips of rain, sort of a lead band there by Saturday morning. So this one tries to bring the rain in a bit faster. The European, I think, is still a little slower, and it's got fair amount of rain by Saturday afternoon into Saturday night, and then some leftover rain early Sunday morning. Now the low pulls out now. Instead of lagging, it pulls out because it's got that lagging energy. And I don't know how much clearing we're going to see. If the rain might be over with if the GFS is right, but how much clearing are we going to be able to see with that big high in Lake Winnipeg and that long northeast fetch that runs from east of Labrador and Newfoundland and comes all the way down the east coast. So you may not see much in the way of improvement on Sunday if the rain were to pull out early.
Yeah, it's always tough to scour out that low-level moisture when you have winds from the east or east-northeast. You really want to turn the winds around into the northwest or west. That helps get rid of the low cloud cover. And again, as you point out, Joe, a huge high and northeast flow doesn't bode well for any kind of quick clearing.
No, and on Monday, I mean, there's still some lagging moisture near the coast, even places way inland, and that's with the next upper low. And then all of a sudden there's a surface low that's sitting off the New Jersey coast Tuesday afternoon, and then that finally gets ejected eastward, and then you probably see some improvement as we head through the latter part of next week. The European today, just to give you something to argue against, or here's the European. The European Saturday morning, the low was in northern Indiana. There's no rain at all going on in New Jersey, in eastern Pennsylvania, New York State, New England. By 1 o'clock in the afternoon, it's 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, it's probably where the rain starts. And then it overspreads Saturday night into Sunday morning and lasts into early, maybe, mid to late morning, and then starts to pull out. So it's a few hours behind the GFS, but it's got the same idea here. A little bit of a deeper low offshore, a little bit of a tighter gradient. Then that goes out, but because, again, it has the same lagging energy, it actually brings back some rain from the northeast, kind of a northern, maybe another one of these northern troughs, with some rain later Monday. And then it forms a low off the North Carolina coast and takes it to, deepens it to a 992 low with 1 million isobars just south of Islip by the time we get to next Wednesday, a week from now. And then it finally pulls away to the east. So it's still a lot to be worked out here in terms of the detail. I kind of like the idea of rain coming in sometime during the day on Saturday and probably moving out sometime during the first part of the day on Sunday. That I'm kind of, I feel good about.
And don't forget that the NAM now is getting more into the picture. The intermediate 18Z goes out as far as 6Z on Saturday, and they have like a stripe of what looks to be moderate rain across northern Ohio into northwestern Pennsylvania by 2 a.m. Saturday morning. But meantime, we're right underneath that ridge of high pressure, which apparently is strengthening slightly. So I'm not sure how things are going to pan out. I still think that we're going to see a delay on the rain, and we'll have a better idea, especially as the NAM, the mesoscale models, I would trust more than the global models in terms of intensity and in terms of timing of a particular rain event.
Yeah, I won't disagree with you. Look at that Look at the wrapped up low in Nova Scotia. There's a 985 low there that forms with when that upper low in eastern Canada moves out, it starts to form another low in the Gulf, well southeast of the Gulf of Maine, and then just gets wrapped up and loops back westward. I mean, you've got the high that's sort of building between the two systems. And if this were the winter time right now, you know how much hair we'd be pulling out of our heads with this.
Or how many ice picks would you be driving into your head?
Right, exactly. I have the ice pick. The ice pick is right here. It's waiting. It's definitely waiting. Oh, good Lord. So anyway, let's come back full screen.
I have Briller Jeopardy tonight.
You do, and we have 72 likes. Thank you for those of you who hit the like button. It's not too late to like the Joe and Joe Weather Show and take us to 100 likes, because it makes us happy, really. We do this show 5 nights a week. It's nice to be liked. All right, so what do you got tonight with Briller Jeopardy?
Let me see. Come on, come up here. Here we go. And the chairman writes it on this Briller Jeopardy. We're looking at the average high temperatures in October in 5 cities. Are you ready for the average high temperature in October, Joe?
Okay, average high in October. I did so well the last time.
OKC.
Oklahoma, where the wind goes whistling down the plain.
Yes,
I don't know, 75.
That's not bad for
a guess.
For a shot in the dark.
Yeah.
A little on the mild side, but that was pretty damn good.
I didn't know which way to go. So 75, folks. Tyler Fengus says 73.
And hit it right on the nose.
On the nose. That was fast.
Yes.
Runner-ups, Alan Rupa and Coin Pig at 72. William Uber says 73 as well. Norm Roberts a little high at 80. Frank R. just missed it at 74. Now, what's the next one?
The next one would be Philadelphia.
Philadelphia?
Yes.
Oh, God. 60... 65?
Once again, you are so very close. This time, you're a little on the coolish side.
All right. Well, Patrick Darcy said 66.
Not quite.
And Carol DeCara said 68, as Northern Grace did as well. And Frank Scalera and Tyler Fenga all saying 68. Maggie P, 66.
But Frank R. hit it.
67. So did William Uber, 67. Very good. All right. Well, this would be like playing the lot. This would be like playing Powerball and missing each number by 1 or 2.
Yeah. Play on, America. How about Phoenix?
Oh, God. Phoenix? Jesus. For October?
Cooling off some.
Yeah. 85?
Yeah, not warm enough.
Carol DeCara is probably too warm at 100.
Yeah.
Joe Z says 84. Patrick Darcy says 90. Alan Rupa 94. Tyler
Patrick Darcy, you were so very close, just a tad too warm.
Tyler Fenga says 87. Michael Lazara 87. Miss Valorite 84. Christina Pedia 83. Daniel Fitzsimmons 90. Maggie P 88. Nope, not yet. William Uber 92. Latex Stream 67. David Carter 90.
You're dancing all around.
Virginia Ginger Cubed is 77.
Too chilly, Virginia. That'd probably be better for Flagstaff.
Michael Lazara said 87. That's too low, right?
Right.
And 90 is too high?
Right.
All right, folks. Patrick Darcy. 89.
Daniel Fitzsimmons.
And Ray Next 12, 89.
Congratulations.
Next.
San Diego.
San Diego. It's always the same in San Diego. Oh, God, I don't know. I'll say 70, 76.
Ooh.
That close?
Yeah.
Oh, I'd be really upset if this were a Powerball ticket that I keep missing, getting so close. 73 says Patrick Darcy. 67 says Daniel Fitzsimmons. What did I say?
76.
76. Alan Rupa 74. Tyler Fienga 77.
Frank R.
Oh, and Norm Roberts, Tommy Clams, and Maggie P. and William Uber all at 75. So
that's right.
75.
And here's the last one.
All right.
Seattle.
Oh, God. No, not Seattle. Oh. I don't know. Get that wind off the northwest, off the cold Pacific. But then I'll say, I'm just, this is just a wild guess. I'm just going to say 61.
That's it. Good night, everybody.
61?
61.
Really? Joe, I swear to God, wild guess. I just pulled a number out of my head. That was.
You can't get any wilder.
So in other words, so if this were Powerball, I would have missed all the numbers, but I would have got, this would have been the Powerball number. I would have gotten that, so this way I would get a free ticket. We have this the group of us at the dog park, so we've been doing Mega Millions and Powerball, depending on who's got the bigger jackpot, and we've been playing for weeks now as a group. We've hit it for $8 a couple of times, and a couple of free tickets also along the way. But that's about as close as we've gotten to anything substantial.
When we had.
I want to have a tax problem. Okay, I want to have a tax problem. So it's okay. Let us hit this ticket so that I have to, so I get to file a semi-humongous tax return. I mean, the pool will be divided by 20 something people. So if it's over $1 billion, it's just a mere bag of shells, whatever it works out to. What?
You know what? If
50 million a piece before taxes. It's a bag of shells.
If I had won that $1.5 billion award, I would just go to the government and say, let me keep $5 million. You could have the rest, but never, ever bother me again.
Oh, that ain't going to happen. You know what happens to those people that do win those big jackpots? With it comes a whole new set of problems. A whole new set of, you find out you have relatives that you didn't know you had, and you get approached by people and businesses and all the rest of it, and
you can't be anonymous, can you? You have to reveal your identity at one point.
I think in some states you can be, but in a lot of them you can't.
Yeah.
Because it's public money, so it's a matter of public record, I guess. I suppose that's how they look at it.
If I won that $1.5 billion prize, you know who I'd find on my front door the next morning?
And now what?
Mr. Haney.
Yeah. yeah, right.
Mr. Rayo, I have some great news for you.
Yes, exactly. You know that French drain you put in?
Yeah.
Well, we have a drain here that comes right from Paris.
I have a Spanish drain.
Yes. All right, let's see if the chat board paid attention. What time is the show tomorrow night, folks? And what time is the show on Thursday? Let's see. Let's see how many people paid attention at the beginning and with what I said. Anybody? What time is the show tomorrow, and what time is the show on Thursday? 7:35 says David Carter, and Christina Pedia paid attention. Well, she said 7:30. 7:35 for tomorrow, not 7:30. 7:35 and 7 o'clock on Thursday. Okay, so if you didn't get it the first time, Michael McGuire, 7:35 tomorrow, 8 o'clock Thursday. No, 7 o'clock Thursday. Okay, 8 o'clock Atlantic time, 7 o'clock. Oh God. All right. So anyway, the Joe and Joe Weather Show is it's brought to you by our friends at Tempest by WeatherFlow. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system. Join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. This makes a great Christmas gift if you got kids that have an inclination to want to go into science. This is great stuff. They've got some other science stuff on there too for youngins. Use the referral codes pinned to the top of the chat board. It's on the descriptor to this video. Use the coupon code I want a weather station, and if you do, what will they get, Joe Rayo?
They will get 10% off, and I'd love to see 11 more likes to make it to 100 tonight.
Okay. And Omni True Value Hardware at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York, 631-756-1125 for the best prices in town, Joe. And the website is
omnitruevalue dot. I'm hoping to get more people to hit the like button here.
Well, they're not going to hit the like button waiting for you just to say dot.
omnitruevalue.com. There.
Oh, when we go off camera, remind me. I got to tell you something.
Okay.
Now I'm going to write it down because I'll forget what it is. Hold on. There we go. You have any breaking news of any kind? Anything you want to rant about? You're in a particularly calm mood?
I'm going to have a nice big bowl of maple ice cream when I'm finished with this. Because between my library talk and now the Joe and Joe show, I have been talking for more or less 2.5 hours straight.
Well, it takes a lot out of you. All right.
Yeah, it does.
Don't forget, we're also on YouTube Music, which is where podcasts are now these days. Google Podcasts will become YouTube Music, and the Joe and Joe Show is a podcast. And also, by the way, I put on Weather in 5, which is my video that I do early in the day. That is also on YouTube Music now as a 5-minute podcast. So if you just got 5 minutes and you want to get updated on the weather, you can do that. We've got 8 likes. You know what? I'm tired.
We only have 95 people watching, so theoretically
they've already liked the show. So there are no stragglers out there that can push it over 100. They'll come afterward because they'll watch it on the replay in the next few hours. So we'll go over 100, after the show's over.
Let's thank the chairman, Scott Briller, for 2 super chat hits tonight, and also Johnny Quest for his reminder about the big snow that hit on this day in 1979.
Yep. All right, folks. Tomorrow night, 7:35. Thursday, 7 o'clock. Have a great night.
We're 96, Joe.
I know. Should we? Do we?
Come on.
I'm trying to think. I could rant about the couple of idiots that I had to deal with on Facebook. By the way, Facebook. I got a notification from them that my videos were not original enough, so they partially demonetized some of my stuff. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. And I just don't really care anyway. Facebook is such a rat hole.
101. I'm done.
All right, tell Tilly to skip the popsicle and give you the maple ice cream, and we'll see everybody tomorrow. Nighty night.
Night.